Nigel Farage has thrown the political landscape in Britain into turmoil, striking directly at the core of Labour's weaknesses and forcing party leaders to confront some of the country's most polarising issues.
This Prime Minister hasn't got an earthly clue how to deal with it.
His latest critiques, delivered with sharp clarity, have highlighted Labour's handling of immigration, economic policies, and even foundational elements like free speech and community cohesion. It's a message resonating with voters who feel increasingly distanced from Labour's urban-centred priorities, suggesting a brewing crisis for Keir Starmer and his MPs. The crux of Farage's message revolves around the perceived disconnect between Labour's policies and the needs of everyday Britons. He argues that Labour has abandoned its working-class roots, neglecting the very communities that historically supported the party. The recent influx of immigrants, he claims, is straining small towns and transforming their social fabric, challenging public services and shifting demographics at a rapid rate. Farage contends that Labour's silence on this issue isn't just oversight, but a deliberate strategy to avoid acknowledging the reality their policies create. He underscores this with numbers. Over 700,000 immigrants arriving in just 1 year, an equivalent of adding a city like Leeds to the country annually. For Farage, this is a crisis demanding immediate response, one he feels Labour is ill-prepared or unwilling to address. Furthermore, Farage takes aim at Labour's economic policies, accusing them of peddling fantasies rather than realistic fiscal planning. In his view, the numbers simply don't add up, and Labour's promises are built on an unsustainable foundation that could leave the British economy on the brink of disaster. According to Farage, Britain's debt is a skeleton in the closet, one that Labour has been reluctant to confront. He warns of potential tax hikes, emphasising that Labour's economic plans could squeeze the pockets of average citizens at a time when many are already struggling financially. This message is gaining traction among voters wary of economic promises that seem increasingly disconnected from reality. However, immigration and the economy aren't the only areas where Farage believes Labour is failing. He warns that Labour's stance on free speech could fundamentally alter British democracy, painting a picture of a future where open debate is stifled under the guise of controlling hate speech. Farage points to recent incidents where discussions around sensitive topics, including national security and cultural shifts, were curtailed, suggesting that Labour is creating an environment where honest debate is increasingly suppressed. This, he argues, isn't just a policy issue. It's a threat to the democratic fabric of the country. Farage's stance is clear. Britain must remain a place where people can freely express their views without fear of censorship, something he accuses Labour of jeopardising. In terms of solutions, Farage isn't shy about what he believes is necessary. He calls for stricter immigration controls, insisting that the UK should regain command over its borders as soon as possible. He argues for caps on immigration, advocating for policies that will alleviate the strain on housing, healthcare, and education systems that he believes Labour has neglected. On the economy, he urges a return to entrepreneurial values, emphasising that wealth creation should be celebrated rather than discouraged. This vision of a Britain that values hard work, innovation, and self-reliance is central to his appeal to those disillusioned with Labour's approach. This message is catching the attention of traditional Labour voters who feel increasingly alienated by what they see as Labour's abandonment of working-class values. Recent local election results underscore this shift, with Reform UK, Farage's party, making significant inroads in Labour strongholds. In the by-election in Bilston North, Reform UK garnered 34.8% of the vote, a result that is sending shockwaves through both Labour and Conservative ranks. For many, Farage's unapologetic approach and straightforward messaging present a refreshing alternative to what they perceive as Labour's vague and overly cautious communication style. But Labour's response has been muted. Starmer and his MPs have largely avoided direct confrontation with Farage, perhaps hoping to maintain a measured approach rather than engaging in a heated debate. However, this strategy is increasingly being viewed as risky, with critics suggesting that Labour's silence might be interpreted as a tacit acknowledgement of Farage's claims.
What reform is, why you're part of it, why they need to be a part of it. These are all the things.
Observers argue that Labour must take a more proactive stance, addressing these concerns head-on if they hope to regain the trust of voters. Farage's rise is emblematic of deeper tensions within British society, a growing sense among many voters that traditional parties are out of touch with their day-to-day concerns. His ability to cut through political rhetoric and speak to those frustrations is prompting a re-evaluation within Labour and the Conservatives alike. For Farage, however, the goal isn't merely to critique. He's aiming to reshape British politics by positioning Reform UK as the real alternative to an establishment that he sees as having lost its way. As the next general election approaches, the stakes continue to rise. Will Labour be able to counter Farage's narrative, or are we witnessing the start of a political realignment in Britain that could fundamentally alter the country's future? Farage's relentless pursuit of these issues suggests that this battle is far from over. Whether Labour can adapt and respond effectively will likely determine the outcome of this high-stakes political contest, one that could redefine British politics for years to come.